Okay, we're going to work on Chapter 8, Exercise 7, which is taking the Professor Juarez application, and instead of using two one-dimension parallel arrays, we're going to make it into a two-dimensional array. So the first thing we need to do is make a copy of our directory. So this is the directory that we're working on. Make sure you make a copy of it because, who knows, maybe you have to go back to this one. So just, Control-CV, copy paste. Here it is, copy. And instead of the word copy, we're going to say 2dim for our two-dimensional project. So here it is. We're in 2dim, and we can get going on this. And then change the two parallel arrays to a two-dimensional array named strStudents. So this is the work that we did before. And right under this array, we're going to declare a two-dimensional array holding strings. And it would be really nice if we could just do this, right? We could just take the first array, copy that, dump it in there, comma, and then the next array. All right, but that's still really dealing with parallel arrays and parallel data. It would be better if we saw, because right now it's like, what grade did Addison get? I don't know. We'd have to count this and all that stuff, right? It's kind of a pain to do so. It'd be better if instead of this, we saw Helen got an A. And then the next one is Peter got a B. All right, and et cetera, et cetera. So you could type all this out, right? That would be one way to do it, but I don't like typing all that stuff, right? So I'm just going to take this and let's see here. Collapse that back together and just comment this out. We're gonna fill this up using this little trick here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through the names. So I'm going to say for I as integer equals 0 to str names dot length -1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write to the console log. What I'm going to try to write is Helen A. So I'm going to write that for every line. All right. There's going to be a lot of quotation marks here. So let's do this. We're going to do console.writeLine. And again, I'm only doing this because I don't like writing out all this stuff manually. Okay. And what do I need to write to the line? I need to write an open curly bracket, and then the user's name, str names in spot I, and then a comma space, and then the grade, so str grades of I, and then the close curly bracket and a comma. All right, this isn't perfect, but it's a good start. So now when I run this, and I can choose whatever, in my output box down here, and if you don't see this, go to debug Windows, and we have output here, or you might have it like this, that's collapsed down. You need to just expand it open. All right, we have the data here. Now the problem is that these are strings and they're not put in quotation marks. So we need to fix that as well. And I can't just put a quote in here because that quote would have closed this one. All right, so let me make this bigger so we can really see what's going on. So if I want to put a quote into a string, I'm going to put double quote in there. So this equates to one quotation mark. So that's the quote in front of Helen. So I'm going to put the one after the name, the one before the grade, and the one after the grade. So in this line, we have single quote, triple quote, triple quote, triple quote, triple quote, single quote. And now when I run this, it doesn't matter what I choose here, it's going to just list all of them. I have now all of the students' names and their grades. And I'm going to take that, I copied it, and I'm going to put it into strStudents. So strStudents as string equals, and then we have curly bracket, all that data that I copied and pasted, and end curly bracket. Now I get a red squiggly here because this last one should not have a comma. So put away, let's make this look nice. So all this was used for, only used to build the two-dimensional array. Okay. You could have typed all this out, but I like to be efficient. And there's a certain level point, right? Like maybe 3 of them I would have typed it out, or 4 or 5, but not this many. Okay, so now let's take str names and grades and let's just comment it out so we make sure we're not using it. And we don't need this for next loop, but we're going to leave it in the code to show our professor that we're smart and we didn't retype all this stuff. The selected grade is going to remain the same, but now how we loop through the data is a little bit different. So I'm still going to use a for next loop. So for I as integer equals 0, 2, and we're going to strStudents get upper bound of 0. And then I can say if strStudents I comma 1 is equal to str selected grade, then I can add the name to the list. I guess I should copy this comment as well. Okay, but this time when we add the name to the list, lst names dot items dot add, we have to add the student name from the two-dimensional array, and the name is in row I, but position 0. Okay, so this for loop down here, I'm just going to delete. We don't need that anymore. And let's check it out when I run it. Oh, apparently I had it running the whole time. Let's run it again. Okay, C, George and Nancy both had C's. And if we look here, okay, it's a little bit easier to figure out, yep, George and Nancy had C's. Okay, who have A's? Addison, Carl, Helen, Tyson. There's Helen, there's Carl, there's Addison, there's Tyson. This is much easier to read than this, right? Trying to figure out in this list, what's Sydney's grade? We'd have to do a lot of counting, either from the beginning or the end. And, you know, if we added a person here in this example, we'd have to add the grade in the right spot. And if we did it in the wrong spot, everyone else's grades after that are screwed up. Versus if I wanted to add a user here, I can add them wherever. And clearly if I add Eric, and I'm going to give myself an A, then you have to finish that entry in the two-dimensional array. Versus two parallel arrays, it's a little bit harder to manage the data. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of those parallel arrays, and we'll leave that in there to show us our instructor that we're smart. And that's really everything. We'll just run this one more time because I made some changes and make sure that it's running correctly, and it is. So there you go. That was exercise 7. Professor Juarez taking the two parallel arrays and turning it into a two-dimensional array.